Hello, YouTube. Okay, so the time has finally come to talk about Spawn. I've been wanting to talk about the show for a very long time. In fact, ever since I first saw the show, I've been wanting to talk about it. So, yeah, I'm very excited to actually go into a lot of detail on this. So, kind of expect it to be a bit of a long review, but it's about a great show, so that makes that better. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so before we actually start getting into detail on the show, I want to get a quick disclaimer out of the way. This show is not for people who are not mature enough to handle it. The show has a lot of gore, violence, swearing, there's a lot of swearing, and nudity. So, yeah, if you're not mature enough to handle that, please don't watch this show until you are. Just because it's animated does not mean that it's specifically for kids. This show is a great example of that. But now with that taken out of the way, let's get into talking about the story. So, our story begins with Al Simmons, who is a government assassin who is eventually betrayed by his partner and burned alive. He ends up going to hell, and he decides to make a deal with Malebolgia. Who is Malebolgia? He's pretty much the devil. So he pretty much just makes a deal with the devil so he can see his wife again. 5 years later, why did it take Malebolgia so long to act on this deal? I never got that. Just like, he waits for 5 years. Why? Does that help speed up his apocalyptic plan? Like, if I wait for 5 years, he'll be more annoyed. Maybe he was trying to burn out his soul or something. Maybe he was just trying to get rid of any scrap of humanity in him. Or maybe he was just trying to get rid of all his memories in that time. But I would have liked that to have actually been said instead of just, you were in hell for 5 years. Stuff happened. Don't question it. But anyway, he finally returns back to Earth where he stops a crime after all the victims have been killed. He's truly the best. And he goes back to see his wife, who is now remarried. And she's actually married Al's best friend. That's kind of awkward. And now he pretty much decides to live his life in an alley, where he ends up becoming sort of a hero to the people of the alleys, but also he's very, very gruesomely killing people. So yeah, he's an anti-hero. So yeah, that's the overall basics of the story, but there is a lot more that happens in it. Like, the story arcs with Twitch in the last season alone I could go into so much detail on that, but I just want to talk about the very basic part of the story, because if I talk about all the other story arcs that go into the show, we will be here all day. So, yeah, I don't really think that anyone wants to stay here all day, but to sum up the other story arcs, pretty much, Terry gets framed for stealing weapons from Jason Wynn, who is his boss, who just decides, well, okay, so my weapons have been stolen and I want to cover this up, so I'll frame Terry Blake for it. Terry is also the wife of Wanda, so of course Spawn gets wrapped into this and ends up helping him out. But eventually later on, Terry comes back, and yeah, he still has a grudge to pick with Jason Wynn, which is actually how Jason Wynn's whole story arc on the show finishes. It ends up with Spawn pretty much turning into Terry. Like, there's a power that's revealed in the 3rd season that if he completely lets his shroud engulf him, then he can pretty much become anyone that he wants for a limited time. So he decides to use that for Terry in order to trick Jason Wynn into a way that he can kill him. Because Clearly, that's the best idea since Caluso? Merlin, yeah, he said he was Merlin at one point. I can't pronounce his actual name, so I'm just gonna call him Merlin. So yeah, Merlin said if you kill Jason Wynn, then he goes to hell and he'll be equally as powerful as you. So of course he decides to kill him. Because that was a smart idea. I mean, like, yeah, don't turn him into the police where he'll just be locked up for the rest of his life if you actually get some evidence to support these claims, which, yeah, you've gotten a lot of evidence on that. But, yeah, I guess the whole big amount of people already who have evidence against him and are even eyewitnesses to some of his bad deeds, yeah, they aren't useful in this case at all. So instead, it's just the best idea to just kill him. So he can come back just as equally strong as Spawn. And yeah, that's what ends up happening, and I really wish that they had continued on. The show only lasted for 3 seasons, with 6 episodes per season, and that was probably my biggest disappointment with this show. But yeah, just summing up the overall basics of what happens to Terry in this show, yeah, I can go into a lot of detail with a lot of the other characters because pretty much every character on the show has a story arc. And while I do love that because it makes the show so much more engaging, there's a lot of things to talk about with it, so yeah, I'm just gonna stick to what I've already said about it. So, for this story, I really love it. Like I said, all the characters have their own arcs. Spawn is probably my favorite one with a character arc, as his arc is mainly whether or not he'll give in to the darkness of being a Hellspawn, and that is actually a very engaging story arc, which at times even gets you to question if Spawn is supposed to be the hero here. There are a lot of times where he questions his own morality, and it can actually be very engaging. There are a lot of story arcs in this show, but yeah, Spawn's is by far my favorite. Another one that I really like is with Twitch, but I'll talk about him when I get into the character aspects. All in all, the stories on the show are very well developed. Each and every character gets one, so you get to know the characters really well. And by the time the show ends, you feel like they're just characters that you really get to know very, very well, and you don't want to see the show end because, well, you've gotten to know these characters. You want to see what else happens with them. But unfortunately, it didn't last past 3 seasons. Although the show is planning on coming back soon, there's even been some concept art revealed, and I'm ecstatic to see that. So yeah, when this show comes back, make sure you watch it so it can get beyond 3 seasons. Seriously, the show ends with Spawn deciding that he wants to reclaim his humanity. I want to see what happened after that. Granted, I could just read the comics, but I want to see what happened on this show. So, yeah, this show is very engaging in storylines. It really gets you to care about what's going on. And the story arcs can be very dark and interesting. There are a lot of them that actually got me very surprised by just how dark they would be. Like the one with Bobby, I think his name was, or Billy. He is a child molesting guy who would pretty much take apart his victims, which are just little kids. It is a surprisingly dark and very realistic storyline. That is the one that really stuck with me. That one was just so creepy to me. And there are a lot of story arcs like that in this show. Another one that really stuck out to me was the one with John DiMatrio's character. Yes, John DiMatrio was on this show, and it's awesome. But he is in the very first episode of season 3, and this one felt very much like a Twilight Zone episode, and I really like how it was done. It's pretty much deciding whether or not another soul will be damned to go to hell. And John DiMaggio's character, Frankie, pretty much has to decide whether or not to kill his own friend because he's seen too much. This episode gets very engaging to me, and I honestly felt that the ending had a big payoff. It also gets into a lot of detail about Al Simmons' past, which, yeah, for some odd reason, Merlin says that Al not saving his friend was his fault. What was he supposed to do there? He was being a loyal soldier. What was he supposed to do? Either give up information or save his friend. Okay, yeah, I guess I can kind of see where he's coming from, but still, his friend was also telling him not to give up any information. Yeah, Merlin can be kind of a jerk on this show, but anyway, that whole story arc really stuck with me. About halfway through that episode, that is a part that I will not forget on this show. There are a lot of scenes like that, and this show is very, very good at going into more dark aspects. So, yeah, for the story, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I really do like how it's executed. Sometimes it goes a little bit into conspiracy mode, but that is also done very well. There are a lot of shows where when they go into conspiracies and everything, I don't really get that invested. Like Prison Break went to conspiracies, and God, why did it do that? But with this show, whenever they get into conspiracies, it can actually be very engaging, and they keep it interesting enough to still watch. That, and they add in a lot of really good character developing moments so that then you don't just get bored with a whole entire conspiracy thing. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people who like the conspiracy aspects, and I like it too. It's not done bad, it's just, yeah, conspiracies don't always work the best with me, but this show somehow found a way to make them very engaging. So, yeah, 10 out of 10. I really love the stories. They give equal time to all the characters, you get engaged in them, and it's just really fascinating to see how dark and how interesting the show can get. So, yeah, 10 out of 10. I love the stories in this show. Now, on to the characters. So, for the characters, there are going to be a lot that I do and don't talk about. There are a lot of minor characters on the show, and while yes, they can be very engaging, yeah, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. So, I've decided to just talk about ones who appear in at least 2 seasons, or have a very prominent role in those 2. Like, the assassin that Jason Wynn hires, that lady, yeah, I'm not gonna be talking about her because, well, she's only really in 1 season with, like, a cameo, I think, in season 1. And, while, yes, she is a good character, she doesn't really end up doing that much. She just, like, tries to kill Terry and doesn't. That's pretty much her biggest point in the show. But I will say that I did like her. It's just, yeah, there are going to be a lot of characters like her that I could talk about, and I really do wish that I could talk about in more detail, but there are already a lot of them that I am going to be talking about, so I'm going to just save it for them. So yeah, if they're not going beyond 2 seasons or don't have very fascinating character arcs, then I'm probably not going to be talking about them. Although if you guys want to ask me what I thought about them in the comments, then by all means, go ahead. I love talking about this show. So, the very first one that we have is Al Simmons, aka Spawn. Now, I find him to be a very interesting character. We don't know a lot about his past, but it's really engaging. You don't see a lot of it, but you can just already tell what kind of person he was. And I really do love how that's executed. And also, when he becomes Spawn, he is a badass. He is just so awesome on this show. And yet, he finds a very good balance of being both awesome and also very tragic. The whole entire story arc with him trying to seek out Wanda, is honestly one that's one of the most engaging on the show. You really want to see where that one goes. Or at least I did. I really wanted to see what happened with him and Wanda. They show a lot of their past together, and honestly, you do end up feeling very bad for him. You want to see him actually be able to connect with her again. So yeah, I really do love that story arc. And he has the voice of Keith David. If you guys don't know, I love Keith David. He's got an awesome voice, but in this show, I think that this is actually one of the best roles he's ever played. Now, he doesn't just play it as a badass, which, yes, he could just do that because, well, he's done that before. And, yeah, while he has done that and he's great at it, he has a lot of personality into this character. Like, there are some moments in the show where I heard a lot of things from him that I never heard from him before. Like, I heard Keith David actually sound very tragic. That's something that I didn't really hear outside of Gargoyles, which even at that, it's not fully touched upon, probably because it's more aimed for kids. So yeah, the darker aspects they can't really get into fully, but here it's a more adult show, so yeah, they can fully expand on that, and I found it really interesting how tragic he can make his voice sound. It shows just how great of an actor Keith David is. He doesn't just go into being an awesome voice actor and that's it. He's also can play a lot of different types of roles. He can play it tragic too, which I really like, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a lot more of him playing a more tragic role. Now, I'm sure there are a lot more because I haven't seen all of Keith David's work, unfortunately, but this to me is by far one of my favorites that is done. He finds a great mix of being both a badass and being tragic at the same time. So, yeah, I really do love Al Simmons on this show, and he's very engaging. So, after him, we have Wanda Blake, who I like, but not as much as the other characters. You can see where she's coming from and why she acts the way that she does and everything, but there are some times where I just didn't really care about her. Like, there were some other things that I cared about more than what she was doing, like, oh yeah, Twitch has now been shot in the head. Let's go see Wanda having sex with Al. That's more engaging. Like, there were some moments like that where I didn't really care about her, but overall she is a very good character and can be very interesting as well. So, with that, she's also a good mother. So yeah, I did like Wanda's character, just not as much as the others. Then we have Terry, who was Al's best friend, who is now married to his wife. Yeah, this does actually lead to some awkward moments on the show, and it also led to Al almost killing Terry once. Yay. I guess he just said, screw it. Who cares if he was my friend at one point? He's having sex with my wife now. Which, yeah, I guess makes sense. But still, dude, you've been dead for 5 years. But after seeing that he gave Terry permission to watch over Wanda, he accepts it. Huzzah. So, yeah, Terry on the show I actually did like as well. He is both a fascinating character as, yeah, I really did like seeing how much more dark he could get as Jason Wynn started putting more and more pressure on him. And also, seeing him go from being actually a very good father to almost dying without even telling his family about it is also a very interesting storyline, and it could go pretty dark at times, but I did like seeing the overall conclusion to it, and I liked seeing what happens with Terry, so I do like Terry on this show. I'm very glad they got me to like him, because if they didn't, then yeah, his whole entire story arc with him becoming more of an a-hole of a father yeah, that probably wouldn't have been as great, but luckily they made Terry a character that you want to follow and you want to see what happens, so that does pick up and get you actually to stay interested in him even at his lowest points. So I do like Terry on the show as well. And then we have Merlin, or Cagliostro. Okay, yeah, Merlin. So, yeah, I know that's not his current name, but you know what? Screw it. I can't pronounce his actual name. So, or at least the name that he went by now. Seriously, they never say his real name. But he is one of the oldest Spawn. In fact, he's the oldest one that's currently still alive, and he was both the Black Knight and Merlin. Try and piece that one together. But yeah, he pretty much was. He pretty much killed so many people that after a while he just started losing his honor, which is a thing that drove him to deciding that he wanted to get rid of the Shroud, which is pretty much. The Shroud, it can pretty much either make you work for Malbogia, or it can make you work against him. It depends as to how you can control it. And Merlin eventually found a way to actually be able to control the Shroud. So after that, he went around trying to help out every other Hellspawn that he could. Eventually, none of them asked for his help and they were killed. But now he decides that Al is going to be the next one that he can try and help, and this one he actually does make progress with. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the finishing story arc for this because, well, just 3 seasons. But we do at least get to see enough to see how tragic this character's life has been. Like, pretty much everyone that he ever loved died hundreds of years ago. In fact, I think that he says at one point that he's over 800 years old. So, yeah. Everyone that he ever knew or loved died hundreds of years ago, and now he's still playing strong just so he can be able to help out a Hellspawn and finally be able to rest in peace. That is something that I find to be a very interesting character arc, but that doesn't mean he has to be a dick about it. Yeah, I'm sorry, he is kind of a dick about it at some points. So, yeah, there are some moments where he's just like, it's taken me 800 years and I still haven't moved on. Al, you better move on in 2 years. Seriously, there are moments where he's like that. And just like, why? There are some moments where he just loses so much patience with Al, which, yeah, I guess it makes sense. He's been working with so many spawns over the years, but you would think that since he's pretty determined on getting Al to be the last one that he works on with, he would be at least a bit more patient, but no, he's just ready to move on and get out of here, I guess. Which, yeah, makes a lot of sense, but that doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it, guy. Al has been a Hellspawn for, what, 2 years? Oh, yeah, and you've been one for, how long? Oh, yeah, you were one for, like 20, maybe over that. You never specifically say how long, but you do emphasize that it was a very long time that you were a Hellspawn. And you've had over 80 years to move past that, and you still haven't fully. So you just expect Spawn to in 2 years? Yeah, you make sense. But yeah, there are just some moments like that where I was just saying, oh my god, dude, shut up. Because there were a lot of moments where he monologues over scenes with Spawn, and he does it over kind of pointless things at sometimes, where Spawn is looking at the moon, and then he says, Spawn now looks intensely at the moon. I'm like, why do I need to know this? But apparently there was a great symbolic reason that he does that I don't even think that Spawn recognized, so good for you, Merlin, you saw that. But yeah, he's probably my least favorite character on the show. That's not to say that he's a bad one, it's just, compared to all the others, yeah, I just didn't like him as much. Then we have Jason Wynn, who, oh my god, this guy is awesome. Okay, so I think that the best way I can describe this character, he is a much more adult and dark version of Xanatos from Gargoyles. He is also, okay, so Jason Wynn is also a billionaire. He is in charge of a company, and he pretty much works on the darker side. He is such a fascinating character, and I really love his story arcs. It's just like we don't get to know that much about him or how he even ended up the way that he did, but that's all more part of what makes him so interesting. You don't know how he ended up this way. You don't know what made him such a bastard, but that makes him even more intimidating. He is very, very skilled. Like, there's one moment where he says that he's going to try a very, very dark method of torture, which involves taking out intestines. So yeah, don't get on this guy's bad side. Whatever you do, stay on his good side, or else then he'll take out your intestines incredibly slowly. Like I said, this is not a kid show. But yeah, he is a very interesting character, and I really did love seeing him on this show. He ended up just being such a fascinating character, and I just really love him on this show. So then after him, we have Clown. Yes, that is honestly the character's name, The Clown. Or just Clown, depending on how you want to call him. He is pretty much the guy who has been sent with Al Simmons. He's pretty much just there to make sure that Al does what Malebolgia wants him to, which is pretty much take damn souls to hell. And let's just say he's really good at his job. For one, Clown, yeah, if you rub him the wrong way, he'll turn into a giant demon who will try to kill you and rip out of his own skin. And yeah, just so you know, this isn't just like a coat of skin or anything. It's not like a caterpillar. No, he has to rip off everything. So it's like blood coming off too. So this is one of the most graphic scenes on the show. But you know what? It looks awesome. And the Clown is just a really awesome character on the show. He's by far one of the darkest there is, but he is just so much fun to watch. I love his voice. His voice is so gritty and realistic, and I just love it. This guy is by far one of the darkest characters on the show, but he's also one of the best. Now, probably the biggest disappointment that I had with him is that he's not a prominent player in Season 3. Like, he only comes in like, the second episode to the very last. And even at that, he just sort of comes in, talks on the phone, and then laughs for a little bit, and that's pretty much it. Like, yeah, that's really his whole entire big plot in the end of this whole show. He laughs on the phone. That's by far probably the most disappointing thing with him, but all in all, he was a very interesting character, and yeah, I also want to know, how'd he end up this way? How'd he end up as the Clown? He's, like, they say that he was born in hell, so yeah, I want to know a little bit about this guy's past, but hey, you know what? He's a very fascinating character on this show, so I just really love this one. After him, we have Lisa Wu, also known as Jade, who is also a very interesting character. I know I keep on saying that, but yeah, they're all so interesting. They're all so engaging. Well, okay, maybe not Garob. He's just averagely awesome, but they're all engaging. So, yeah. But Lisa Wu, also known as Jade, she's really awesome. Okay, so the very first time that we see her as a journalist. And yeah, we see her like that a lot, and I also thought that she was really awesome as Lisa Wu. She was really cool. She would always get down to the very facts and nothing else. That's all that she would take. And yeah, she was just a really awesome. She was just an awesome journalist, and I just really love seeing how far she went with the story. But then when she's revealed to be Jade, she gets even more interesting somehow. Like, she was already really engaging, but then somehow she just gets so much more engaging. So yeah, when she turns out to be Jade, and we eventually find out that she was a bounty hunter sent from heaven. Yes, there is a war between heaven and hell in this show. And it's just seen as kind of a minor subplot, somehow. But yeah, that's going on in this show, and Jade is one of the bounty hunters sent from heaven to take out Spawn. Although eventually she starts developing feelings for him and decides not to go through with it. And that just ends up with heaven saying, well then, screw you! Then they just send some bounty hunters to kill her. And pretty much if she dies now, then she'll go down to hell. So she asks Spawn, who has now become pretty good friends with her, even though they only had like 2 days hanging out. Yeah, that's my biggest problem with their story arc. They don't really get to talk that much to become friends. Like, how do they become friends? She doesn't kill him once, and then all of a sudden, boom, she has interest in him. Don't know where that came from, but it did. So, yeah. I'm guessing that this was more fleshed out in the comics, but yeah, I haven't really read a lot of the comics. I mean, I know enough from them, but I haven't really read them all that much. So, yeah, I'm guessing that's more developed in the comics. But anyway, Jade pretty much ends up asking Spawn to kill her so then she can go pretty much to a warrior's. So then she can pretty much die a warrior's death, which will pretty much end her up in Valhalla, pretty much. So, yeah, she asks him to do that, and after a while, he decides to do it so then she can move on and be at peace. So, yeah, her story arc honestly ends really sad. Mainly because I really liked her. I really liked her as Lisa Wu and as Jade. She's both awesome and kind of fun on the show, actually. She's one of the lighter characters when she's Lisa Wu, and I like her as that. She's more trying to get down to the basics of the story, and that's something that I find to be really engaging about her. When she's revealed to be Jade, I still have a lot of interest in her, but a little bit less than I did when she was Lisa Wu. But that doesn't mean I hate her as Jade. She's awesome as Jade. So, yeah, I love her in both character roles. So, yeah, Jade is awesome. Lisa Wu is awesome. They are both awesome. They're one and the same, and they are both awesome. So then after her, we have Sam. Oh, thank God, it's time to talk about him. Okay, so Sam. He is awesome. Twitch is also awesome, but I'll talk about him in a second. Sam is pretty much, well, you know what? I got a toy from him, so let's see how Todd McFarlane would describe Sam. Sam Burke. Since Spawn's arrival in New York, these private detectives have decided to track down and question his vigilante ways, even though they've only encountered Spawn a few times. On the show, only one of them met him, and it was only Twitch. But, yeah, you only saw him once. So, yeah, they're going to question him on his vigilante ways, which they never do on the show. Why am I reading this? Okay, so, yeah. Apparently, according to that, he's actually one of the only straightforward cops in the actual station. Yeah, there are a lot of corrupt cops in this place, or at least from what I've seen, it appears that there were a lot. But, yeah, Sam and Twitch are pretty much two of the most straightforward ones on the force, and they are awesome. Okay, so Sam and Twitch make a great team. Together, they are pretty much unstoppable when it comes to solving a crime. Sam is more the brawn out of the two of them, but he can also really read a crime scene extremely well. So don't just underestimate him. He is also very intelligent, but yeah, Twitch is much more the brains, and together they are an awesome team. Sam also really cares for Twitch. We can see that when Twitch gets shot. Yeah, Twitch gets shot in the head, point blank, and survives. How would he do that? Seriously, I want to know. How would he survive that? Is he magic, or is it just because he's Twitch? Actually, wouldn't underestimate if the answer is just he's Twitch. But yeah, when that happens, you can see Sam there right beside him every second. He just tries so hard to help him out. And it's honestly so nice. I really love seeing their relationship together. They are by far some of the funnier parts of the show, which they bring in some nice levity, and they're also very interesting. So Twitch is awesome. He honestly I kind of like a little bit more than Sam, but I really like Sam too. Yeah, I think that the best way to describe Sam is he's Harvey Bullock from Gotham. Yeah, so if you've seen Gotham, you know what Harvey Bullock is like. So, yeah, Sam is pretty much a little bit more awesome version of Harvey Bullock. So, yeah, Sam is freaking awesome. Yeah, I love Harvey Bullock on that show. So, Sam, I also love you. You are awesome. So, Twitch, he is freaking amazing. Like, I didn't think that he was as awesome after he got shot in the head, but that was still a very engaging story arc. I really love Twitch on this show. He is so fascinating, and seriously, he's just awesome. Like, how can you not love the badass that is Twitch? I'm having to put a lot of money in this jar today. But yeah, Twitch is really awesome. So is Sam. They make a great team together, and honestly, they're some of my favorite characters on this show. So after them, we have Garub, who you might not really recognize if you watch the show even, as his name's only said a few times, and he's just a bum on the street. But you know what? He's actually a very good character. Now, pretty much Garub is a guy, he's a hobo on the street who's actually very willing to help out a lot of people. He's one of the nicest people in the show. In fact, he probably is the nicest person on the show. He just puts himself behind others a lot. Like, there are a lot of times that he just puts people above himself, and he's such a nice guy. There were a lot of moments that I was so worried that he was going to get the axe, but I'm so glad he didn't. I just got so worried for him at times, but you know what, Garub, I'm glad that you survived. I was just kind of disappointed that he didn't have the biggest role in Season 3. Like, in Season 3, he's only there, like, what, twice, I think? So, yeah. He just gets reduced to cameos in Season 3. I was kind of disappointed in that. He's also kind of the moral compass more for Spawn. He's pretty much the closest thing to a friend Al has after he becomes a Hellspawn, and yeah, I really do like Garub on this show. He's so nice of a character. Honestly, I really do wish that we got to see more of him in Season 3. It kind of felt like his role was replaced with Granny, who was also awesome, but yeah, I'm not gonna be talking about her, she's just cool. But yeah, she pretty much acts the same as Garub and is also more of a moral center for Spawn, but she's also awesome, so I'm not gonna hate her. She's awesome. But I just kind of wish that there was a little bit more Garub, because I really do like him. He's nice, but yeah, I'm fine with what we got with him. He's still awesome. So after him, we have our final character. Only took 26 minutes to get to them. Like I said, there were a lot of characters to cover on this show, and I'm not even talking about them all. So, our very last one is Chapel, who, after his fight with Spawn, doesn't appear as much, but I just love his fight with Spawn. So, Chapel is pretty much, a very, very cold assassin, to say the very least. There are honestly moments where he has laughed after shooting a child in the face. yeah, let's just say that he's a dark character. So, yeah, Chapel is honestly one of the darkest assassins in the show. Even though he's not sent by heaven, he's one of the darkest. And he's also one of the most gritty there are. He has honestly cut his finger with a knife for no reason. Like, they never explain that. He just cut his finger with a knife. And honestly, there are a lot of moments where you see that he didn't want to kill Al. And those are by far some of the most interesting moments. He actually is the one who ended up killing Al under request of Jason Wynn, but yeah, he's still the one who did that deed, and he honestly does feel a lot of regret for it. You can see that in a lot of scenes, even one where he's having sex and has war flashbacks. That was a very weird scene, but anyway, he was still a very interesting character, and seeing just how hard he took finding out that Al was still alive, that alone is just a very interesting arc, and I just really love seeing what happened to this character. He's such a bastard, but he's so interesting. And I think that interesting is the best way to sum up all of these characters. They're all just so fascinating. They have such a rich history to them. And each and every one of them gets their own arc. You want to see where they're going. You want to see what happens to them next. And honestly, there are a lot of moments where I'm worried for them because there are a lot of situations where they are put into near-death situations and some of them are even killed. So, yeah, there were a lot of moments where I got very worried for a lot of these characters. Even the evil ones I thought were very engaging and I wanted to see a whole lot more of. So, this show left me wanting so much more with these characters. Hopefully when the show comes back, we will get more with them, because I am seriously just waiting patiently for that show to come back. Keith David's got me in the role as Hal Simmons again, and Mark Hamill's got me playing Sam in Twitch, and Cree Summer is gonna be playing someone! Someone! I'm so excited! Also, Cree Summer was on Gargoyles as Hyena, and so was Keith David as Goliath, so woohoo! Gargoyles reunion! Why am I talking about gargoyles now? How does Keith David always lead to gargoyles with me? Okay, but anyway, back on to Spawn's characters. They are all very, very engaging, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a whole lot more of them. They are so fascinating, and I just really love seeing how rich of a history they can have. They're all great characters. So yeah, for the characters, I'm gonna give them a 9 out of 10. There are some moments that I didn't really like them in, but overall, they are all very great and very interesting. So, yeah, I really love these characters. Now, let's get on to the animation. It's beautiful. Alright, so now we have the animation. Oh my god. Alright, so this is some of the best TV animation I have ever seen. It is so detailed. I just love this animation. Okay, so for one, the shadows. Oh my gosh, the shadows on the show. This is like the biggest thing that I notice on the show is that the shadows are so well done with the animation. It is just, oh my god, what else can I say? But I love it. I just love the animation on the show. It's so crisp. Everything with it is so precise. The colors, just the overall style of the characters, they're both realistic and also you can still tell they're animated. It is just so amazing. I don't know what else to say. It's just, God, I love this animation. I love it. I love the animation. It is so detailed. It has such great color work. The lighting is amazing. It just all looks so beautiful on this show. 10 out of 10. Just immediately 10 out of 10. I love the animation. It's some of the best that I've seen on television. In fact, it probably is the best. It's just, God, I love it so much. is so detailed. The shadows are by far my favorite part. Although, yeah, there is one downside. The shadows can be a little bit too apparent sometimes. Like, it's broad daylight in Jason Wynn's room. Half of his room is covered in shadow. How? How is half of his room colored in shadow? Dude, don't you know what a lamp is? But yeah, there are just so many moments that the animation is so beautiful to look at, and I just love it. God, I love it. It's dark, it is detailed, it can be so beautiful, and also, yeah, there are some moments that you want to turn away from it, so I just love it. The animation here, yeah, again, 10 out of 10, I love it. So, for this show overall, it's amazing. Okay, so I just really love this show. It is dark, it is adult, and it's honestly just so fascinating. Every character has an arc. You want to see what happens with those characters. The story arcs are also engaging. Even if they go into conspiracies, it can still be fascinating. They still make that very engaging. The casting, oh my god, the casting is perfect for each and every character. Even the extras in the background or just side characters, they all have a personality and a voice of their own. They all have time to be able to be developed, even if they're on screen for just a little bit. Like that one little mute boy who was hanging out with the clown when he was a crazy priest because he wanted to do that one day. Yeah, when that happened, you honestly get to know the little mute boy. Even if he's just a hostage, and that's all that he really is in this episode, you still want to see him get out alive, and it's fascinating. I love it when a show can do that. This show is so great. I highly recommend if you are mature enough and if you haven't seen this show, please leave my video. Watch it right now. You can find the whole show on YouTube. Just look up Spawn the Animated Series. It'll come in as Spawn 1, 2, and 3. You can find all the episodes there. They're only 2 hours. Go watch it. It is definitely worth your time. It is an amazing show. I have already seen it twice, and I am very much looking forward to watching it again and again. This is just that type of show that you can watch over and over and never get tired of. It is just such a fascinating show. Every single time I watch it, there's something new in it. It always just feels like I'm watching it for the first time. It is just so fascinating. It is so engaging. The characters are so well developed and interesting. The animation is it's just beautiful. And the story arcs are fascinating. And also very tragic at times. So yeah, for the show overall, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out immediately. It is very much worth your time. So yeah, I love this show. It is amazing. It is a great way to start October to me. Because yeah, it is kind of a horror show. I mean, there's a lot of scenes that can be very creepy. So yeah, I highly recommend checking this out. It is definitely worth it. So that's pretty much it for Spawn. Like I said, I expected to talk on for a while. Oddly enough, I don't think I talked about this one just as long as I did on Gargoyles, but you know what? It's still a great show. Keith David is amazing! I had to get that out there, even though there was no transition into it. So, yeah, this show is truly amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, again, go check it out right now. Trust me, you'll love it. If you're mature enough to handle it, that is. If you're not, then, like I said before, don't watch it yet. Wait until you are mature enough. Like I said, there are a lot of dark moments on this show. Granted, I am just 15 and I'm able to handle it, but I'm also able to handle the Amityville movies. So yeah, come on. Put it into perspective. If you're able to handle a lot of movies with a lot of violence, a lot of blood. There's a lot of blood on this show. A lot of swearing, and also nudity. This is the show for you. Okay, well, actually, no. If you find stories to be interesting, characters to be fascinating, and great animation, then this is the show for you. So yeah, if you're just an animation fan even, just go check this out immediately. It's definitely worth it. Just 10 out of 10. I love it. So yeah, I just love this show so much. I'm so glad to have been able to talk about it. And if you guys want to talk about more of the comments, let's do that. Seriously, I'm cool with that. Anytime. I love this show. Maybe even a little bit too much. No, I can never love the show too much. So, yeah, I just really love this show. It's by far one of my favorite that Keith David has ever done. Again, Gargoyles is still #1, but this show is very close. So, yeah, I really love this show, if you guys couldn't tell that yet. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on Spawn. 10 out of 10. I still really love it. And next week, we will be looking at The Mirror. Yay. Get ready for crap horror movies. Yay.